These are the darkest Scooby Doo episodes of all time. In Season 1, Episode 5, Song of Mystery shows how Mystery Incorporated could take innocent concepts and twist them into something genuinely disturbing. And that's coming from me, a massive Scooby Doo fan. The episode features Que Horrifico using a magical pan flute to hypnotize children throughout Crystal Cove, transforming them into his monstrous minions. The goblinization of children is an unsettling twist that goes beyond typical Scooby-Doo scares. Instead of adults in costumes trying to scare people away from property, we get actual mind control being used on kids to turn them against their own families. The episode shows children with distorted faces and aggressive behavior, attacking their own parents while under supernatural influence. But the episode largely keeps within the show's adventure roots, making its darkness more shocking than persistent. The horror comes from the violation of childhood innocence rather than sustained psychological terror. While seeing kids turned into monsters is disturbing, the episode resolves everything neatly without lasting consequences, making it feel more like a dark fairy tale than genuine horror. It's like watching a Disney movie that accidentally wandered into horror territory for 20 minutes. Here's how I'm deciding these rankings, and yes, I made another whole system because apparently that's my brand now. I'm measuring each episode by 3 factors: how disturbing the content actually is, how much it breaks from traditional Scooby-Doo tone, and how likely it is to give viewers legitimate nightmares. Mystery Incorporated pushed boundaries that previous Scooby-Doo series wouldn't even acknowledge existed, transforming a lighthearted mystery show into something that occasionally resembled psychological horror disguised as children's entertainment. Attack of the Headless Horror. In Season 1, Episode 22, Attack of the Headless Horror demonstrates how effective monster design can be when it taps into primal fears about death and dismemberment, classified as visual terror. The episode features a relentless, headless creature that seems genuinely supernatural, hunting Dr. Rick Spartan with unstoppable determination. Initially scary due to the headless monster and the disturbing image of a talking severed head, this episode creates horror through pure visual impact. The headless creature's design is genuinely unsettling, combining human and inhuman elements in ways that feel wrong on a fundamental level. The chase sequences maintain constant tension as the gang tries to escape something that appears truly unstoppable. However, this episode's horror is more visual and less existential than later entries, placing it lower on the darkness scale. While the headless design is disturbing, the episode doesn't explore deeper themes of mortality or psychological trauma. It's scary in the moment but doesn't linger in your mind afterward, making it feel more like a traditional monster movie than genuine psychological horror. The episode proves that sometimes the most effective scares are the simplest ones, even if they're not the most lasting. Haunting in Crystal Cove. In Season 1, Episode 23, Haunting in Crystal Cove explores how the past can literally come back to haunt families, classified as family trauma horror. The episode features zombies and disturbing family history that creates a tense atmosphere throughout the investigation. Zombies and haunting family history create genuine dread as the episode explores themes of guilt, death, and family secrets that span generations. The undead creatures aren't just monsters, they represent unresolved trauma and the consequences of past actions that refuse to stay buried. The episode suggests that some sins can never be forgiven or forgotten, even by death itself. But the episode remains firmly in classic Scooby territory despite its macabre elements, never fully committing to the darker implications of its premise. While the zombie imagery is disturbing and the family secrets are genuinely tragic, the episode resolves everything with typical Scooby-Doo logic rather than exploring the deeper psychological horror of generational trauma. It's like watching a serious horror movie that remembers it's supposed to be appropriate for children and pulls back just when things get interesting. The Gathering Gloom. In Season 1, Episode 11, The Gathering Gloom is noted for its frightening monster design and the way it builds an atmosphere of inevitable doom throughout the cemetery investigation, classified as creeping dread. The episode begins pushing the show's tension beyond comfortable levels with a graveyard ghoul that seems to embody death itself. The monster's design and behavior suggest something truly malevolent rather than just another person in a costume, while the cemetery setting creates an environment where death feels omnipresent. The episode builds tension through atmosphere rather than jump scares, creating a sense that something terrible is always about to happen. However, the episode does not reach the levels of psychological horror seen in later installments, keeping the darkness at a manageable level for younger viewers. While the atmosphere is genuinely unsettling and the monster design is effective, the episode doesn't explore deeper themes of mortality or existential dread. It's scary without being traumatizing, creating the kind of spooky atmosphere that makes you check over your shoulder without giving you actual nightmares. Night Fright. In Season 1, Episode 21, Night Fright blends humor and horror with a genuinely threatening villain in what amounts to a love letter to classic horror cinema, classified as horror movie homage. However, the episode's tone is kept lighter compared to the show's grimmer installments. The episode pays deliberate homage to classic horror films with its mansion setting and hulking monster that stalks the corridors with genuine menace. Night Fright itself is an intimidating presence with glowing eyes and monstrous strength, creating real danger for Shaggy and Scooby throughout their night of terror. The episode successfully captures the atmosphere of classic horror movies while maintaining the Scooby-Doo format. But despite the horror movie trappings, the episode maintains enough humor and familiar Scooby-Doo elements to prevent it from becoming truly dark. The revelation that Night Fright is a robotic creation for a publicity stunt grounds the horror in reality rather than exploring genuinely supernatural or psychological themes. It's like watching a PG-rated version of your favorite horror movie. It captures the atmosphere without the content that would actually disturb you. The Hodag of Horror. In Season 2, Episode 15, The Hodag of Horror marks a turning point where the show begins depicting monster attacks more brutally, classified as escalating violence. The episode introduces a sense of real danger as party guests are dragged into darkness with hints at worse fates. The monster's attacks are depicted with more violence and threat than typical Scooby-Doo encounters, suggesting that victims might actually be harmed rather than just scared. The episode shows people being dragged away by the creature, with implications that they might not survive the encounter, breaking from the series' usual pattern of non-lethal scares. The slime mutant's ability to dissolve obstacles and nearly trap the gang adds genuine peril to the investigation. This episode begins the series' transition toward more serious consequences and real danger for both the gang and innocent bystanders. While still maintaining the show's mystery format, the episode suggests that the threats are becoming more legitimate and the stakes are rising beyond simple property scares. It's the first time the show makes you genuinely worry that someone might not make it out alive, even if they ultimately do. Scarebear. In Season 2, Episode 18, Scarebear juxtaposes comedy with genuinely disturbing factory scenes, classified as tonal whiplash. The episode features bombs, mutated creatures, and direct threats to the gang's lives while raising the stakes both physically and morally. This episode combines the show's traditional humor with scenes of environmental destruction and corporate malfeasance that have real-world implications. The bear monster itself is both comical and terrifying, representing the corruption of nature by industrial greed. The episode features explosions, environmental hazards, and suggestions of corporate cover-ups that go beyond typical Scooby-Doo villainy. The juxtaposition of comedy with serious environmental and safety themes creates an unsettling viewing experience where you're never sure whether to laugh or be concerned. The episode addresses real-world issues like pollution and corporate responsibility while maintaining the cartoon format, creating cognitive dissonance that makes the entire experience feel surreal. It's like watching an environmental documentary that occasionally breaks into slapstick comedy, except somehow that makes it more disturbing rather than less. Nightmare in Red. In Season 1, Episode 12, Nightmare in Red elevates the show's tension to new heights with hallway horror and psychological manipulation classified as psychological maze. Fans noted this episode as deeply unsettling and emotionally intense. The episode creates a psychological gauntlet through surreal imagery and reality-bending sequences that challenge viewers' perceptions of what's real. The dreamlike atmosphere and constant shifting between different states of consciousness create genuine disorientation for both characters and audience. The episode explores themes of memory, identity, and the nature of reality in ways that are genuinely unsettling. Fans have noted this episode's impact as deeply unsettling and emotionally intense, marking it as one of the series' most psychologically challenging installments. The episode doesn't just scare viewers, it makes them question what they're seeing and whether they can trust their own perceptions. It's the kind of episode that stays with you long after watching, not because of jump scares but because of the way it gets inside your head and makes you doubt everything. Escape from Mystery Manor. In Season 1, Episode 17, Escape from Mystery Manor features a claustrophobic setting directly inspired by the Saw franchise, classified as torture porn light. The episode combines this with a genuinely crazed villain who puts the gang through elaborate death traps. The episode creates one of the most genuinely suspenseful and harrowing experiences in the entire series by trapping the gang in a house designed to kill them. The villain's elaborate death traps and psychological games go far beyond typical Scooby-Doo antagonists, suggesting someone who genuinely wants to harm rather than just scare the protagonists. The claustrophobic setting amplifies every threat and eliminates escape routes. This represents a significant departure from the series' usual tone, bringing elements of torture horror into a children's cartoon in ways that push against content standards. The episode creates real tension about whether the gang will survive, breaking from the usual assumption that everyone will be fine by the end. It's like watching a sanitized version of a horror movie that's still somehow genuinely frightening because the fundamentals of the terror are intact. Night Terrors. In Season 2, Episode 10, Night Terrors is heavily inspired by Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, classified as Shining Homage. The episode turns a classic haunted hotel setting into a psychological gauntlet that intimidates both younger and older viewers alike. The episode transforms the familiar haunted hotel trope into something genuinely menacing through its use of isolation, psychological pressure, and the suggestion that the characters might be losing their sanity. The hotel setting becomes a character itself, seeming to influence the behavior and perceptions of everyone trapped inside. The episode builds dread through atmosphere and psychological manipulation rather than jump scares. The Shining influences are obvious and deliberate, bringing elements of one of cinema's most psychologically disturbing horror films into a children's cartoon format. The episode succeeds in creating genuine unease through its exploration of isolation, madness, and the breakdown of reality. It's disturbing precisely because it takes familiar horror elements and makes them work within the constraints of children's television, proving that atmosphere can be more frightening than explicit content. Wrath of the Krampus. In Season 2, Episode 13, Wrath of the Krampus combines dark holiday folklore with child endangerment and ominous settings, classified as folklore horror. The episode pushes against typical genre limits for seasonal episodes. Dark holiday folklore and the threat of children being taken by a malevolent supernatural entity gives this episode a menacing atmosphere that subverts traditional Christmas imagery. The Krampus legend itself is genuinely frightening, representing punishment and judgment that goes far beyond typical holiday morality tales. The episode uses familiar holiday settings to create false security before introducing genuine supernatural threat. The combination of Christmas imagery with ancient European folklore about supernatural punishment creates cognitive dissonance that makes the episode more unsettling than straightforward horror. The episode suggests that traditional holiday celebrations might be covering up much darker truths about supernatural forces that judge and punish according to their own alien morality. It's like discovering that your favorite childhood holiday traditions are actually based on something that wants to hurt you. The Man in the Mirror. In Season 2, Episode 21, The Man in the Mirror dives deep into surreal psychological territory, classified as identity crisis horror. The episode strands Fred in an alternate reality while exploring traumatizing themes of identity and isolation. This narrative explores what happens when someone's sense of self becomes completely disconnected from reality, trapping Fred in a mirror dimension where nothing makes sense and escape seems impossible. The episode examines themes of identity, reality, and psychological breakdown through surreal imagery that challenges viewers' perceptions. The mirror world serves as a metaphor for mental illness and dissociation from reality. The episode's exploration of identity and psychological trauma goes far beyond typical children's entertainment, addressing serious themes about mental health and the nature of reality itself. The surreal imagery and psychological concepts create genuine unease about the stability of perception and identity. It's the kind of episode that makes you question whether the characters are reliable narrators of their own experiences, which is deeply unsettling territory for any show, let alone one aimed at children. The Midnight Zone. In Season 2, Episode 16, The Midnight Zone moves the series into truly grim territory with explicit murder attempts classified as murder attempts. The episode features childlike robot minions and directly challenges the boundary of children's horror content. The episode features actual attempts on the gang's lives that go far beyond typical Scooby-Doo threats, with a villain who genuinely intends to kill rather than just scare or rob. The childlike robot minions create disturbing imagery by combining innocent appearances with murderous intent, subverting expectations about what should be safe or threatening. The episode directly challenges content boundaries by featuring lethal threats in a children's show. This represents a significant escalation in the series' willingness to depict genuine danger and murderous intent, breaking from the usual assumption that Scooby-Doo villains don't actually want to kill anyone. The combination of childlike imagery with lethal threat creates cognitive dissonance that's deeply unsettling, making viewers question their assumptions about what's safe. It's the point where the show stops being a children's mystery series and starts being a horror show that happens to feature familiar characters. Through the Curtain. In Season 2, Episode 25, Through the Curtain is a twist-filled, emotionally taxing episode classified as Sacrifice and Doom. Hot dog water sacrifice and close brushes with existential doom mark the prelude to apocalypse. The episode features the death of a major character in Hot Dog Water's sacrifice, breaking the series' usual pattern of everyone surviving their adventures. The close brushes with existential doom and the suggestion that reality itself might be ending create genuine dread about the future of all the characters. The episode serves as a prelude to cosmic horror, suggesting that much worse things are coming. Hot Dog Water's sacrifice represents a turning point where the series commits to genuine consequences and character deaths, making it clear that the stakes have become life and death rather than just mystery solving. The emotional impact of losing a character who had grown and developed throughout the series creates genuine grief rather than just temporary sadness. It's the moment the show proves it's willing to break viewers' hearts in service of its darker narrative ambitions. All Fear the Freak. In Season 1, Episode 26, All Fear the Freak represents the culmination of betrayal, murder, and ancient evil, classified as ultimate betrayal. This season finale reveals the town's darkest secrets and most catastrophic betrayals. This episode reveals that Fred's own father has been the series' primary antagonist, orchestrating years of trauma and manipulation for personal gain. The betrayal goes beyond simple villainy to psychological abuse and family destruction that fundamentally changes Fred's understanding of his own life. The episode combines personal betrayal with cosmic horror as ancient evil threatens to consume everything. The revelation of Mayor Jones as the Freak creates one of the most psychologically devastating betrayals in children's television, destroying Fred's entire foundation of trust and family connection. The episode doesn't just reveal a villain, it reveals that Fred's entire life has been built on lies and manipulation by someone who should have protected him. It's family trauma disguised as a mystery reveal, and the psychological impact is genuinely devastating. Come Undone. In Season 2, Episode 26, Come Undone stands as the bleakest episode of the entire series, classified as Cosmic Apocalypse. The episode features the literal destruction of reality itself, deaths and erasures, and cosmic horror that concludes all of Crystal Cove's nightmares in the most devastating way possible. This finale doesn't just end the series, it destroys everything that came before it through cosmic horror that threatens the very fabric of existence. The episode features apocalyptic imagery, reality-warping effects, and the genuine possibility that everything and everyone the audience has grown to care about will simply cease to exist. The cosmic entity represents forces beyond human comprehension that view all life as insignificant. The destruction of reality itself creates existential dread that goes far beyond typical children's entertainment, forcing viewers to confront concepts of meaninglessness and cosmic insignificance. The episode suggests that all human struggles and achievements are ultimately meaningless in the face of cosmic forces that can erase everything without effort or consideration. It's the darkest possible ending for a series that began as lighthearted mystery adventures, proving that Mystery Incorporated was willing to go places that other children's shows would never dare to explore. Here's where we leave it. Mystery Incorporated proved that children's animation could explore genuinely dark themes while maintaining its core identity. The series demonstrated that darkness and horror don't require graphic violence or explicit content when you have strong writing, atmospheric direction, and the willingness to take emotional risks with beloved characters. Next up, we're ranking every time the show completely broke viewers' hearts, because apparently psychological trauma is just another Tuesday in Crystal Cove. Trust me, the emotional devastation in these episodes will leave you more damaged than I am after years of trying to convince people that this cartoon is actually a masterpiece of horror television. And yes, I'm still going to call myself the #1 Mystery Incorporated fan, despite acknowledging that it probably gave me more nightmares than any horror movie I've ever watched. Sometimes you love something precisely because it's willing to hurt you in ways you didn't know were possible from a show about a talking dog.